there's a lot of differences between these two candidates. Style, substance, policy, strategy, approach. There are differences. Crockett's going to win the overwhelming share of the black vote. Talarico's going to win the white vote by a good margin. But as Chuck pointed out very accurately, those will balance themselves out. The key is going to be who wins the Latino vote, and then all the prognosticating and punditry begins as to why. And I'm absolutely convinced that this race comes down to, are Latinos economic voters or are they racial and ethnic voters? And I think we're going to find out. I definitely have my theory of the case, which is they're economic pocketbook voters, but I could be wrong. We're going to find out.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Latino Vote Podcast, coming to you live from Sacramento, California, believe it or not. I showed up at the airport yesterday here, and there were protests outside. Go home, Chuck Rocha. We heard you've been talking all this shit on Sacramento. Mike, thanks for having me in your lovely city again. I only walked over 4 homeless people to get here.
Yeah, I was the one who paid for the protesters to welcome you because of how much you dog on Sacramento. This is a great city. You're having a great time. Meeting old friends showing up. People going like, hey, what's going on? This guy, the cowboy hat shows up. We've been a fan of this guy's for a long time, and he graces us with his presence here in our city.
So look, Mike was nice enough to get me invited out here with the California Senate Democrats to give them a talking to today. And it was a great time this morning. I flew in last night late. For those of you at home, you should know that there's one direct flight a day from D.C. to Sacramento. I bet some congressman or senator had something to do with that, but I digress to another day. But we had a great conversation this morning with the Senate Democrats, didn't we, Mike?
Yeah, and I think it's probably a little bit rare for you to see a Senate Democratic Caucus as big as it is, being from Texas.
I thought it was the whole setup.
It was a lot of people, man. I mean, I think there's only 8 Republicans in the Senate. So you saw
majority.
Super majority here in California. So it was a very wide-ranging discussion. I think Chuck had a lot of really important insights nationally. We talked a little bit about Texas. We talked a lot about California. We talked a lot about Latino voters. Talked a lot about working-class voters. Talked a lot about the good that's coming in the midterms, the bad that's coming, the warning side. Just a full-ranging discussion. We had a long talk with them.
Hat tip to Senator Lamont. Yeah, from Santa Barbara.
Yeah, Monique
First Latina Senate leader in California. I'm going to take my hat off. The first leader, a Latina. And, you know, it was interesting when we think about all the things that are going on in all the different parts of the country. You know, California, and I was telling Mike this when I was coming out here, that we don't think about California and how big it is.
Yeah.
And how in the Senate caucus, you had every element of the Democratic Party represented.
Yeah.
Right, left, center, Latino, black, all other denominations of all kinds of Democrats.
It's a big state, man. And we talk about it a lot in California, just not a whole lot of people listen to us. But there's a big racial, economic, ideological spectrum, gender spectrum. It's all there. And so it is, as you know, was shared with us, it's hard to kind of find a common political agenda. But when you break it down to the brass tacks, the Democratic Party has got to become this working class party. You and I have been talking about it. I thought you did a really effective job kind of convincing them that there's a broader opinion beyond just our show, beyond California's borders, all over the country going, what does that mean? How do we do it? What is Texas going to share? You know, tell us with this. There's a lot of talk about Ruben Gallego, your involvement and your advice with him, and things seem to be working. So I thought it was a great discussion.
Yeah, and I like when they bring in folks to get a different perspective. In California, the control of California and the way the political campaigns have run the same way for a long time. So I give them credit to want to hear alternative voices. They probably didn't take everything we had, but they may not have heard. They definitely hadn't heard all the shit you was talking today. And for those of you at home, that's why the Latino Vote Podcast matters. It's because a lot of those folks are listening. They're listening to what we're saying. They want to hear this with everybody that's there. Well, let's jump into today's episode.
Real quick, though, let me say this. If anybody thinks that Mike Madrid pulled punches and I don't talk like this with Senate Democrats, what you get on the Latino Vote Podcast is just straight up right there. Let them have it.
All whiskey, no chasers, what I would say there. So we're recording this on the State of the Union. So when you hear this, you will have now listened to Donald Trump for, what do you think, Mike? 1, 2, 3 hours. Maybe he's still going 4 days later when folks are actually hearing this.
We should probably do a little over under. 2 hours would be an exceptionally long one. He's saying now 3 hours.
Let me root this for you.
Yeah.
Last year he went 99 minutes.
99 minutes. So that's like an hour and a half, right? A little over an hour and a half. I think he goes over 2 hours tonight.
What?
Well, look, I could be wrong, and maybe they're just floating a trial balloon saying that, and then he'll end up kind of making it a lot shorter. what is he going to go on for that long about? I mean, I know the guy can give kind of this stem winder, and maybe that's his play, but there's nothing good to talk about.
I need to know what your marker is. Is it 2 hours?
2 hours.
I'm going to go under, and you know me, ladies and gentlemen, I like to take the over, but I'm going to take the under 2 hours.
Okay.
Because I don't think that his diaper can hold that much if he goes longer than 2.5 hours. There's only so much you can put in a diaper. I'm just going to say that.
I don't, you are an
Whatever,
expert
it's
on the
me.
diapers.
I'm just saying.
You're a diaper expert, so we're going to leave that with you.
Okay, but I think it's under 2 hours.
I think that I'm going to take the over. I'm going to take the over on 2 hours.
God, I hope you're wrong.
Yeah, I do too. What, are you going to watch it?
Here's the other one. What does he say? And folks will know this because they're listening and he's already done it. Did he or did he not acknowledge the Supreme Court? And did he call them fuckers in their face?
I think, what about a fist bump maybe?
I don't think he knows how to do the fist bump.
He probably doesn't know how to do fist bump. I'm going to say he ignores Amy Coney Barrett. He's going to just straight ignore. He's going to try to make a scene or a spectacle with at least a couple of them, probably the
ones
women.
that were with him or the ones that are against him?
Well, remember, everybody voted against him on the tariffs, his big signature issue just last week that just set him off.
But 3 of them, did they just abstain and not say nothing? Because 3 of them didn't go against him.
Yeah, 3 of them were with him. You're right. Maybe he just acknowledges those 3, but he's going to do something. He's going to make some spectacle with the conservative justices that he pointed that were not with him, which tells me that's Amy Coney Barrett, who increasingly does not like. And who was the other one? Was it Gorsuch? Gorsuch was with him?
The Chairman Roberts, so the guy Roberts, the head, Roberts Court. He's the one who was the head of it. He's who we really don't like.
Yeah.
Because he's lost him on a couple things, even when he's gotten Coney Barrett.
Yeah. He's going to make a scene of it. He can't not help himself.
The other question will be, and it's so great that y'all are listening to this now and it's already happened, but it's the other haters that he has that's just been a royal pain in his ass. Who's the Republican who's always going after the Epstein files with Ro Khanna?
Massey. Tom Massey.
Does he say something about Massey? That'll be one interesting.
I hope Massey sits like on the center aisle, like where they're going to reach out and grab him and give him a good firm handshake. I don't know. I will see. And what do the Democrats do? That's the big question in my mind. Do they hold up little paddles and signs? Remember that goofy spectacle last time? Mm-hmm. Or do they boycott? I know Robert Garcia and some others are like, I'm just not going to dignify this by showing up. If after 2 hours, 2 hours is a long time. Like you got to take a bathroom break after 2 hours, right?
Per my diaper comment, but please continue.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do? I hope that my advice would be, and Democrats don't take my advice, which is why they lose as much as they do.
Here we go.
But what I'm going to say is this. What they need to do is be there and be more statesmanlike, be more stoic, be more above the fold. Take Michelle Obama's advice finally after a decade now. And I've been a critic of that, but now I think it's the right advice. When they go low, which Trump is going to go low, go high. Because the Trump fatigue syndrome has completely set in. People are tired of this nonsense. They've had it. So let him play the fool. Let him be the music grinder, turning out little old, tunes on his little music box, and people will see it for what it is, a circus show for what it is.
There's one thing that we all know when we talk about it on this show all the time, coming to you live from Sacramento, is that the folks that we've seen voting in these primaries that are happening right now, and we'll get to Texas here directly, as we say in Texas, but that there's a lot of anxiety out there and anger with Trump, even with lots of folks who voted with Trump. And a little bit when we talk about Texas, me and Mike may or may not tell you, let me not bury the lead, that it looks like as of the last counting of the early votes, and by now, when you're listening to this, early vote will be over. But up till now, on a Tuesday, that about 12% of the electorate in the Democratic primary voted in a Republican primary in the last few cycles, Mike. That shows me that something is very unique and happening out there.
Yeah, is that just Latinos or is that all voters?
All voters.
Okay, that's a big deal.
All voters.
So, again, there's a 12% what we would call kind of a leakage or a defection rate. Speaking of your diapers.
Let me stop you
leakage.
and remind you that we've also saw some of this in that New Jersey race as well with people switching over.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, not in a big number, but they were saying estimates between 7 and 8%.
Okay, but that's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot. And especially to see that in Texas, 12%. That means people who normally pull a Republican ballot because you don't register in a party in Texas, you ask for a request a ballot. 12% of people who had been voting for Republicans are now saying, give me a Democratic ballot. That's two things I think we need to be focused on there. The first is how those voters are going to vote. And we don't know. And I know you've got some really good data I want you to share on who this new universe of voters are, because there's a lot of new voters going on. But what I'm also equally interested in is what about those voters that are not that are staying behind, that are staying in the Republican primary? Are they more conservative? Are they more moderate? Does that break Paxton? Does that break Cornyn? Because there's a good chance that if this election comes out, again, this is just my armchair quarterbacking, Talarico versus Paxton, I may be for the first time in 12 years being willing to say that Democrats might have an advantage in winning that Senate seat.
And you said something to me earlier that really piqued my interest. Is we've been sitting around this podcast table talking about how Latinos will be the difference in many elections, but especially in the Democratic primary. But girls and boys, they're going to have a big effect in the Republican primary because it is so close in Texas.
That's exactly right. So we're finally at this point where Latinos are going to be the determining factor in all of these races. And again, for old guys like Chuck and I have been doing this for 3 decades. There was always like this congressional race, it'll make a difference. This, city election for mayor, it's going to make a difference. It's all the races in like 2/3 of the country now where the Latino vote is actually making a difference on both the Republican side, the Democratic side, and in states throughout the country.
And so what we saw in the State of the Union we've yet to see for those of you at home, did he make his case? That's the real tell here. What Donald Trump has to do, if I'm writing a speech for Donald Trump, or anybody that's going to give a State of the Union, is I need the voter to understand that I made a promise. You elected me to do this thing. And I've delivered this thing in these ways and make my case of how promises made, promises delivered. And I can promise you, Mike Madrid, that whatever somebody is writing for him, that's what they are writing. Does he, to your point, stay on that message, or does he jump off on Supreme Court or whatever it is? And we know he's going to do that. But the point for all of you who listen to the speech now that we're after the speech, did he make the case to enough midterm voting folks who are going to show up to vote, some in Texas right now in the primary, but everybody in November, to help the Republicans fight history, fight the headwinds of what's coming? Because in every off-year election, the opposing party always picks up seats and does well, but we're doing astronomically well. Let me give you a topic or a killer statistic that I've been saying on TV. There's been over 100 special elections and elections since Donald Trump has been elected, and 26 of those have flipped parties from Republican to Democrat, while 0 have flipped the opposite way. Does one election tell the tale? No, just like one poll does not tell a tale.
Right.
But it shows a trend.
Yeah.
And does a special election turnout equal midterm? No, it doesn't. Does midterm equal? No. But they're just all, to Mike Madrid's point, trend lines showing you direction of discontent.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be, did he make his case in the State of the Union? And
I will make the case for what? I mean, you are correct, but like
that he closed the border, that he got criminals off the street, like whatever his crazy shit is.
Yeah, but let's say that because that is his marquee issue. You're right. Lean into that. That is like a top 10 issue now. The problem with solving the issue is it's no longer at the top of mind for voters. And what they're saying in the polling overwhelmingly is focus on the economy, focus on affordability, fix the problem, the other problem that we hired you for. Yeah, you're focused on hunting people down. Yeah, you're focusing on the border. Congratulations, you did great. You shut the border down. You know what now? We don't care. Can't afford rent. Can't afford groceries. Can't afford gas. That's his problem. Is he's not viewed because he's not focusing on this issue, and the pivot he would have to make. The way I think probably, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but the way Chuck and I would probably go into this, most professional consultants will be like, look, take credit for the border. Warn everybody about all those, Mexicans down in Puerto Vallarta, who are, by the way, Puerto Vallarta is still a beautiful city, and don't cancel your travel plans. Everything's fine. Everything's safe. I'm going to be down there in a few weeks myself.
Just for the record, this is what happens when Chuck Rocha leaves the country. It goes to shit. Please go ahead.
But what he's going to use the pictures of violence and mayhem and saying, see, that's what's coming, except unless that's why you hired me, is to keep these people from coming in. Those are the bad people that we're trying to keep out of America. But he should make a pivot on the economy. Take the weakness, acknowledge it and say, look, okay, we tried it, didn't work. I got this new plan, lay out a 4, 5, 6, 8, 10-point plan, whatever it is. He's not going to do that, brother. He's going to double down on a 15% tariff, which I think Americans are finally beginning to realize we pay the tariff. The consumer pays the tariff. It's a tax. It's a tax on Americans. You're not taxing the French. You're not taxing the UK or the Germans. You're taxing us. You're taxing hardworking, working-class Americans who increasingly are saying this guy's responsible for driving the economy over a cliff. And I'm not gonna back it anymore. So the Supreme Court gave him an out. in many ways. They should have looked.
They threw him a lifeline.
They threw him a lifeline. Blame the Supreme Court, pivot and say, I can't do that anymore. We're going to have to try something else. It would have worked if these guys would have just let me do my job. We're going to try something else. But no, what does he do? He's like doubles down on another part of the law with an even bigger tax because he's too petty to let it go. And it's going to drive him deeper into this ditch.
And I think that if you want to know in fact, that what Mike is saying and what I've been saying is true is the talk about affordability on the price of what your life costs you every day. Look at what the White House is trying to force him to do. They forced him to go to Wisconsin. They just forced him last week to go to Georgia to talk about the cost of living of people. But he can't, to your point, help himself.
He can't.
And this is what I'm sure that all of you are listening and shaking your head, even though we recorded this on the day that he was going to give it, that he got his petty. Let's talk about he's
going to Texas too, as I understand, this weekend.
Yep. For all of you who knows, he's going to be in Corpus Christi. He was in Corpus Christi because it'll have already happened when you see this.
Yeah.
Because he, again, knows the importance of that Senate race down
It's
there.
a mistake, dude. I think him going on site, it's not going to turn out well for them. And now he's going to have to own it even more.
He can't help himself. You know that he can't help himself.
Yeah.
How did we think that the great state of California and the great city of Sacramento, I'm saying this now so you don't protest when I leave, and our buddy and Senator Alex Padilla in Spanish, Latino, giving the Spanish response to the State of the Union. I talked to Alex's staff this week. He was on a call with me and a few other of his brain trust talking about things that we wanted to see, and he wanted to get input, and I give him a lot of credit for that. But, Alex Padilla is a mild-mannered man. And when you saw Alex Padilla get pushed to the ground by federal agents and demand that he was a senator, I saw Mike Madrid say, I've known Alex Padilla for a long time, and Alex never was the one to jump up on the table and try to whoop somebody. That when he and something happened, it was very intentional.
Yeah.
I think he'll have that intentionality when he did the response to just say, this is what the community thinks, and here's what we think of the speech, and here's what we should all be thinking moving forward.
Let me say this. I mean, first things first, we need to get Alex on the show afterwards.
Oh, that's a good point.
So let's reach out to Alex's office.
Get Alex on, get Chuck paid, put Alex on. Okay.
Second thing is, I think part of this play to run out the clock on Trump's behalf to go late is so that no one pays attention to the responses. Because there's a
never thought about that. You're exactly right.
Big organized efforts from all of these affiliated organizations with all of these influencers, all of these podcasters, all of these people online on their Substacks, all waiting to do this response. If he pushes it into 11 p.m. at night on the East Coast and 8:30 p.m. on the West Coast, the audience gets cut in half. If he goes 3 hours, they're saying 3 hours, people are going to stop listening to him. I don't think he cares. They're not going to listen to anybody else. I think that's what the play is. I think the play is to just drown everybody out by not having that presence. So, look, I think Alex will give a great response. I think it's awesome. He's going to do it in Spanish. I think it's a great spokesperson. The question's going to be, how long does Trump go? And is there an audience? Which is why he should absolutely come on. Alex, I'm talking about being on the Latino Vote podcast. By the way, I know I had to clarify, but if Donald Trump...
You don't have to come to Sacramento, though. He can do it from anywhere. The comfort of his own office.
He worked here forever. Alex loves Sacramento.
Right. I don't like
We need to have Donald Trump on, is what we ought to do. Is we ought to ask Trump to come and do the show.
He's a listener, by the way. You think he's going to come on? No.
I think he's a regular listener.
Might be. I bet somebody on his team is. Look, there's a lot of people that are going to give responses. It's not just Alex Padilla. And it's not just, the Democratic official responses from the new Virginia governor, Spanberger. Thank you for bailing me out there. I always forget her name.
Yeah.
And then also there's our brother, Ruben Gallego has given one of the responses.
Nice.
It's called the People's Response.
Yeah, Midas Touch.
Midas Touch, that's right.
Midas Boys, yeah.
So he's doing that. Lots of things going on, lots of moving parts. Let's get into... I think that's enough about the State of the Union because I'm pumped to see it tonight. On my list here, I have up Texas primary. I should have put Texas primary -OMG WTF turnout. And what I mean by that, girls and boys, is, oh my God, what the fuck with this turnout? More people. We're recording this on Tuesday before the next Tuesday election.
Yeah.
So there's 4 more days of early vote. And as many people, Mike Madrid, have already voted early in the Democratic primary than voted all of the Democratic early vote last time as of today.
Never seen anything like that before.
Outvoted Republicans so far. Again,
in Texas.
In Texas. Outvoted Republicans in a primary where they have a crazy Republican primary by 100,000 person margin, more Democrats have voted. Now, let me stop you.
Yeah.
Because if I was you and I want to push back on Chuck Rocha, I would say, well, you're probably just cannibalizing your election day vote. And how do we know that these folks, they're just pissed, as we've said, and they're showing up early because it's their first opportunity to vote. And in Texas, it's pretty liberal. There's lots of different voting locations in a city. Like San Antonio has 15 places, not just one. In Tyler, there's probably just one. But in San Antonio, there's a bunch.
Yeah.
But it's much bigger than that, Mike. And jump in here after I finish this point, which is it's the makeup of the folks that we said at the top of the show that really intrigues me the most. Never in all of my years have I seen over 10% Republicans. Now, let me also preface my comments there and say, in Texas, most of the time, the only race is a Republican primary in many races.
Right.
Because 35 years ago, it was the opposite. It was a Democratic primary in a local election. They were all Democrats. Now they're all Republicans. And that's the only place. So for somebody to go in who's a moderate independent and say, I'm going to pull the Republican, because as Mike said, when you walk in the booth, I used to be an election judge. You said, which one of these do you want, red or blue? You can vote right here in the same place, but you pick one ballot or the other.
Right.
And you can go
choose
vote.
your party.
Choose
Yeah.
your party, whatever, which one you want to go do. 12%, up to 12%, they're saying somewhere between 10 and 12 who have voted in a Republican primary are voting in the Democratic
That's
primary.
massive.
And then a bunch of folks in a tweet I saw coming to the station this morning, 35% of people, I think in Harris County, had no primary election history, but had general vote history. Those skippers that me and you've always talked about
Yeah.
who don't participate in primaries, but vote in general elections.
It's a big new universe.
It's crazy. Go ahead.
Tons of new voters. No, I was going to agree with you. A couple things I want to say about this. The first is we'll post in the show notes a picture that I saw over lunch of Chuck Rocha with Ann Richards.
Ooh, that
Right?
was a long time ago.
Just in case anybody is doubting that there is a deep, deep strain of Texas elections and politics in Chuck Rocha.
For those of you listening, it was a picture when I was still thought of as Twisted Steel and Sex Appeal.
Yeah, they don't say that anymore. They don't say that anymore. The second is, how the hell did they allow you to become an elections judge in Texas? Talk about corruption.
Because nobody else signed up to be it in Precinct 44 at the Dixie Volunteer Fire Department, where I was a fireman.
The Dixie Volunteer Firefighter Department.
Right. So that was a volunteer fire department in Western Tyler,
Uh-huh.
which was in Western Smith County.
Yeah.
And I was a volunteer fireman there.
Oh.
And the union,
Okay.
when I went to the local union meeting, they had said we have to show up for the Smith County Democratic meeting because they were picking election judges and they needed to fill vacancies. And mine was just happened to be vacant.
Okay.
There was no election judge. So the 21-year-old raised my hand when they said this was the magic part. They were like, on this particular day, you will have the same authority as a district judge. And I was thinking how much drinking and smoking I could do that day and not get in trouble. So I was like, pick me. I'll be the election judge.
Democracy in action, folks.
Boom.
There
It's
it
the
is.
little things.
It's the little things that matter. I wish there was a picture of you like offering a Republican and a Democratic ballots to some voter coming in, but we're gonna have to assume that those
It
elections
was
turned
about
out
the
the
time
right
you
way.
saw the Ann Richards picture that we will put up.
At about the same time, right?
Andreas, I'll send this to you.
Yeah. So the other thing I want people to keep in mind is how significant and impactful the Latino vote is going to be in the Crockett Talarico primary. This is going to be a very, very big moment in Texas. It's going to be a very, very big moment in Latino politics. And I think it's a very big generational moment in the country's history. And I say that with no hyperbole. There's a word for you, Chuck. There's no overstating that. I think it really does matter. And let me tell you why. Because even though there's no Latino candidate on, in fact, I think it's more important and more instructive that there isn't a Latino candidate. What you're seeing is Latino voters between a black candidate and a white candidate. And as I have been challenging voters, I shared this with the Senate Democratic Caucus today, wrote this in my book for those of you that read it. The rise of the Latino vote challenges white and black power structures. That's not a bad thing. It's the opportunity to recreate America. It's an opportunity to recreate pluralism. I believe that Jasmine Crockett's campaign and Congressman Allred have played a type of old school Democratic racial identity politics that doesn't work anymore. And I'm happy for you guys to flame on me and add comments saying, Mike Madrid, your Republican's showing. Say whatever you will. That's fine. I also think that Talarico is saying something that hasn't been heard since I was a kid in Democratic politics, since my parents were old school Latino, Catholic, working class Democrats. There's a new voice. I think that there's going to be some appeal to that. And I could be wrong. I don't want to overstate this. I have seen polling on both sides, by the way, from both campaigns, internals, and from public polling showing both sides that there's Talarico and Crockett support. Both candidates are getting a majority of Latino support. The data is everywhere. It's muddy, as we say. And when that happens, all you can do is look at turnout, wait until the ballots are counted. Then the nerds like me will go in, we'll do the regression analysis, look at Hispanic dense precincts, try to find some understanding, take a look at precincts like in the Houston area, compare them to the Rio Grande Valley, where there's urban, rural, suburban splits, divides, and try to make sense of a very complicated race with one particular caveat. That is if there's a landslide in either direction. And so the narrative coming out of this election, I think, is going to be extremely important on our Latinos, this economic populist working class voting group that Mike Madrid's been talking about, and Chuck Rocha and the Ruben Gallegos of the world have been talking about. Or is it truly what the orthodoxy of the Democratic Party has been, which is demographics is destiny, and non-white voters vote as a block, people of color stick together, it's one group, and we've got to stand united against Donald Trump, against the Republicans. Learn your lesson, Latinos, from 2024. They don't think that you're white. You're never going to be white. You fucked around and you found out. Welcome home, but don't ever think about leaving the party ranks again. I don't know which way it's going to go, Chuck. Maybe you've got some insight, but I think that is really what the narrative is going to be, one way or the other.
I'm still working on what regression algorithm is.
Regression analysis.
Oh, so I want to do a regression analysis of the hyperboles. Now, listen to me. Here's how this goes if you break this down in redneck. And what Mike is saying about the primary comes down like this with Talarico. And if you're listening to this, Andres, I'm sure we'll get this up before Tuesday election day because we'll have this whole election the day after podcast. We should talk about that. Anyway, we'll do that scheduling when we're not on air. But think about this. There's no doubt in anybody's mind that Jasmine Crockett is winning 90% of the black vote. If she's not winning 95 or 98%, as she should, good for them. That's awesome. That's going to be about 20% of the electorate. If it's more or less of that, you can start telling yourself after this early vote, how are black voters showing up? In the primary 4 years ago, they were about 20% of the electorate then. If it's more, you can say, oh my God, it's more. And you should know it's all going to Jasmine Crockett. If it's less, as a percentage of the turnout, you went, oh my God, black and Latino turnout must have been up too because they stayed and kept pace.
Both are very, very high right now. Black and Latino turnout, very, very high.
Very high. And so what I mean by this to tell you and to drive home Mike's hyperboles, if I keep using that in the wrong way on purpose, is there's no doubt that Talarico is going to win the white vote. He's white. He's showing up. He's doing the things he should do, but it's not just because he's white, but he's going to win the white vote. And let's say it's 60-40. And if it's 60-40, white voters make up about 46% of the electorate. In the last election 4 years ago, same scenario. So what you start looking at is what he loses by. No, let me say that again. What he is winning by, she can make up that number with just her black vote to bring it to about even.
Right.
So what she loses that white vote percentage, even though it's bigger, the percentage of a turnout is a percentage of turnout.
Right.
So if she wins overwhelmingly this black vote, he can make up what she just lost the white vote by 20 points because that's how the margin is. This is what I'm getting at. Y'all don't make fun at home. I'm mathing. And when I get to mathing, my hair stands up.
Wait till he does the science. It gets even more complicated.
Math is mathing. So she makes up what she loses the white voters with black voters, and that leaves right there in the middle. If he wins the Latino vote by 1 point, it could be the 1 point that he wins by because we already know where the white voters are.
And vice versa.
And we know where the black voters are.
Yeah.
But where are the Latino voters?
The Latino voters are going to decide this.
By a ton.
Yeah.
If he wins by 10, it's going to be, you watch these numbers, y'all, it's because he won the Latino vote by 10.
That's it.
And that's where you win the whole state by, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly right. Latino voters are going to determine the outcome of this race. And by the way, I think Latino voters very likely determine the outcome of the Republican race. Nobody's talking about that.
Nobody is.
Nobody's talking about it. Heard it here first on the Latino Vote podcast. That's where this country is going. Chuck and I were talking over lunch. When we were kids, there was just a handful of races. Now, like I said, it's everywhere. And this Texas race is showing exactly why. There's a lot of differences between these two candidates. Style, substance, policy, strategy, approach. There are differences. Crockett's going to win the overwhelming share of the black vote. Talarico is going to win the white vote by a good margin. But as Chuck pointed out very accurately, those will balance themselves out. The key is going to be who wins the Latino vote, and then all the prognosticating and punditry begins as to why. And I'm absolutely convinced that this race comes down to, are Latinos economic voters or are they racial and ethnic voters? And I think we're going to find out. I definitely have my theory of the case, which is they're economic pocketbook voters, but I could be wrong. We're going to find out.
Cornyn, that's what I was trying to think of. Cornyn
and Paxton.
Cornyn and Paxton.
There's a black candidate in that Senate race too.
Right. And he's a congressman. He ain't some nobody from Houston, Texas.
What's his name?
Yeah.
He's a little bit of a nobody.
Hood. What is his name? Damn it, I know his name.
He ain't a nobody, but nobody knows his name.
No. And for all of you shits and giggles at home, you should know that between the two candidates, Cornyn and Paxton, there's been $10 million worth of negative ads run against per se black Republican candidate who can go unnamed right now.
They're hitting the smaller, weaker, third-party black Republican candidates.
Because they're worried for different scenarios of who's going to make the final two. For those of you at home, you should know. It's a nice studio you got here, Mike. Anyway, you should know I'm pointing at the camera. That to be dramatic. To say, I'm watching you. And that in Texas, if you do not get 51% of the vote,
it's a runoff.
50 plus 1. There's a runoff 2.5 months later. Mike Madrid, the Texas primary for both parties combined has already been the most expensive U.S. Senate candidate primary in the history of American elections. As of today, over $100 million have been spent in this primary. Why are me and you both broke? Like $100 million.
Speak for yourself, man. I'm in California. That ain't money in California. We do that all the time.
That's a lot of money.
We do that with our eyes closed in California.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But that tells me that what that probably is Paxton, who's wide ahead, is trying to keep that third-party candidate's vote share down so he can squeak over the 50% mark.
Yes.
That's what's going on.
Right.
They're trying to win this thing outright because they don't want a dogfight between a one-on-one, straight-up heads-up fight.
And Paxton knows. And for those of you scoring at home who are political nerds, you know that if Paxton gets to a runoff with Cornyn, it bodes very well for Paxton to even have that scenario because only the reddest right-wing red will show up to vote in a runoff in Texas.
Yeah.
The middle-of-the-road moderate Republicans not showing up for a runoff.
So maybe it is Cornyn spending the money beating up on the third-party black candidate in Texas.
It will be interesting.
Whose name nobody knows.
Nobody knows. God, I can't believe that. You just called me out and I was so wrong because I know his name and they were talking about him this morning. Anyway, we don't know him and he's a congressman. The thing that I did know, though, and what I found out.
He ain't a nobody, but nobody knows his name.
Is that evidently $7 million of this money was an ad run against him saying he never shows up in Washington to vote. So maybe that's why I don't know him.
Why I don't know
you go back, how many times have you run that commercial, Mike Madrid? The congressman who just takes your money, you pay his salary, he don't even show up to vote because he is way too busy.
Does that ad work?
I just don't. I think people think that they're all just a bunch of rigged systems.
I think they don't care. They're
like,
of course they don't show up
cigars
and vote.
And drinking champagne.
Yeah, it's like the carpetbagger ad. Does that really work? I don't think it works. But whatever, you got to take your hits. I mean, if someone's going to pay me to make the ad, I'd do it.
Texas primaries. Let's see who makes the runoff. It's going to be really big. As you're listening to this, will be right before the election day. I'm going to Texas on Saturday and will be in San Antonio with Talarico with some of my other clients going up to Austin. I'll spend election night with James and his team. And I want to say that his team has really done. It's a really, how can I say this? How can I use the hyperboles to figure out who's actually run the best campaign in two different kinds of campaigns? Because Talarico has been doing TV commercials. He's been doing digital ads. He's been doing door knocks. They have a distributed team in all the major cities, actually out in the community working, all the communities. And Jasmine Crockett gets in on the last day. She hasn't had much of a campaign. She had a lot of name ID that made up for a lot of this. I don't take anything away from her.
Right.
But she's just run some commercials and been Jasmine Crockett and is traveling the state. I give her that. But which is it enough to win? I don't know with this turnout, and it drives me crazy.
You're not calling it a mediocre campaign, are you?
I wasn't, because you know how people in Texas don't like nobody calls somebody a mediocre campaigner. No way, no shade. Oh, so let's go back to.
I hope you're watching on YouTube, folks, because Chuck just shrank up there. Like, made him nervous. He's like, Mike Madrid, did you really go there?
No.
Mike Madrid always goes there.
Just so you know that this was a natural pivot, I put California governor here for you, fucker. so we can talk about the California governor's race? Don't put baby in a corner.
He is shook.
Do not put baby in a corner.
Chuck
I want to
Rocha
talk
is
about
shook.
this fucked up California primary where it looks like Democrats have 15 candidates, and we may put a Republican in the top 2 if people don't get their shit together.
Yeah, look, that's always a theory. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No, it's not.
But is it hyperbole?
It's not hyperbolic to say that it is possible. No, it is not. I just came out of the fields today with a poll, Democratic pollster.
Mike Madrid has never been in a field. But anyway, you please go ahead.
Dave Binder, as we say in the industry, when you're fielding a poll, it means you're out there interviewing and asking people questions. We got the results today before this meeting with the Senate Democrats caucus here in California. And one of the surprising findings, Chuck, was Eric Swalwell is winning. The lion's share, the largest plurality of Latino voters.
I knew he was Latino.
This
Swalwell. Swalwell is from Puerto Rico? Swalwell.
Yeah. And again, sorry, Antonio, sorry, Javier Becerra. That's not the way the numbers are breaking. And most of the polling, I think, is showing that. That's where they're getting most of their support. But as the lanes are consolidating, and they are consolidating, there's a lot of grinching about the fact that the candidates that seem to be doing the best tends to be white candidates. Well, guess what? The Democratic primary, even in a state like California, is dominated overwhelmingly by wealthy, white, college-educated, home-owning voters. And yeah, there's Tony Thurman's black candidate, Betty Yee's an Asian candidate, Javier Becerra, Latino, Antonio Villaraigosa, Latino, but they're all lagging behind considerably.
If you have some women and some gays, you have them all. Wait, you do have women and gays.
We got
all
everything.
of the above in the thing.
All of the above. So you've got Eric Swalwell, who's the leader in most of these polls. You got Tom Steyer, this wealthy billionaire, which is a fascinating dynamic in and of itself. You got Katie Porter from Orange County, former congresswoman, and you got Matt Mahan, all of them white. In a party in a state that kind of, prides itself on being very racially and ethnically diverse, even in the Democratic primary, the top 4 candidates are whites. That says something, doesn't it, about the electorate?
Says the electorate likes the white boys.
Yeah, even in California.
That is saying a lot. I think that if you think about how keep in mind, this is really important. So, Mike, help me fix my California ignorance. We're in California now, so I'm going to watch my terms. Is that this election is the first Tuesday in June. But if we've learned anything, folks in this state are getting ballots really early. Haven't people already had ballots for like 2 years? Come on now. You said it was all the time.
That sounds like a right-wing conspiracy theory.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When do ballots drop?
In California, we get our ballots very, very early, and it takes twice as long as everybody else to count. So yes, there are ballots out there that for months. We're out. We mail every California registered voter proactively. You don't have to request it. We mail you a ballot 30 days out of the election.
So this thing starts in April. End of April. Beginning of May.
Correct. That's when ballots start. The campaign obviously started already. Ads are already going up. But you're allowed to count ballots up to 7 days after the election if they arrive at the county government center, as long as it's postage stamped by 8 p.m. on the first Tuesday of the month. So there's, a very long campaign period in California. And by the way, that if there is a squeaker on the midterm elections, California takes so damn long to count our votes. Remember, that week after the election is just to get the votes. Then it's going to be another 5 or 6 weeks before we certify the election. That's a really dangerous point for democracy to be in if the balance of the House of Representatives sits in that void. I don't think it will be, by the way, and I've been saying that for a long time. Right. I think we're looking at a D+11, D+13 environment, which is a massive, massive Democratic pickup. I think we're going to start seeing the early results of that. We've already seen the early predicting behavior of that in New Jersey, in Virginia, in New York City, Miami, in Fort Worth, the special in Fort Worth last Saturday, and in California with Prop 50. These turnout numbers are through the roof.
Let's talk about what you will be. So this podcast will come out at least 24 hours before folks are voting in Texas. What will you be looking for in Texas, and what can you tell the listeners? and you can help correct me, Mike, because you know much about them polls and the hyperboles. If they will, you think they will do exit polling in the Texas primary from the major states? Do they do exit polling in a state like that in the primary?
I don't know if AP is or not. I mean, you and I have been here together all morning, all day. What's today? Tuesday?
Yeah. So the election's a week from today.
The election's a week from today. You and I have been talking to reporters all day about this election. And what's funny is, everyone's used to Chuck being in DC and I'm in California and we're having lunch and the same reporter will call us.
That was funny.
2 minutes after the other one to get insight on the races. It's like, oh yeah, we're having lunch with that guy. What was I going to say?
You were saying about the exit polls, and do you think the AP or anybody will do that in Texas?
I think they should. It's expensive, but of course, I think they should because I think it's so interesting. Under normal circumstances, no, they won't. Will AP? I'm going to guess probably, but we should find out. But here's the kicker. Here's what really matters is once the race is certified, and in Texas, it's not like California. They don't mess around. You can certify an election within 10 days, probably 7. Then we can actually go in and look at the hard data and even tell us better than what the AP exits were saying. It's going to tell us everything. And it's hard data. It's not like a poll, a guess, and who weighted at this, and how many people did you ask with this sampling. This is actual, real hard data, and we can look at the precincts. We can look at black precincts. We can look at white precincts. We can look at rural precincts. We can look at Latino precincts.
Parties.
Yeah, with both parties.
You can see both parties with a contested primary. Let me give y'all some numbers that I knew I'd put on my phone to tell you about this early vote to make it more dramatic. In just 5 days of early voting, remember what he just said, what Mike said about Fort Worth in the special election? And we talked about the swing of those Latino precincts and talked about how even that place called White Settlement moved a lot more Democratic. So this
White Settlement, Texas. Where do you live? I'm from White Settlement, Texas.
But we like black people, and I have a black friend, but we're from White Settlement. So we talk a contrast between 2018 and today, because 2018, everybody had their hair on fire. Everybody had bought them one of them pink pussy hats and had went out to protest in 2018.
I saw yours.
Yeah, exactly right. I had little ears on it. Mine was pierced because I'm a hippie. But I would say that in that year, in the same first 5 days of early voting, stay with me, Mike. I'm mathing.
What year?
2018.
Oh,
I'm trying to draw the same parallel of right after. First 5 days. I'm looking at the camera now for you on YouTube. First 5 days in Tarrant County, in the Democratic column last time, 9,300 Democrats had voted and about 14,000 Republicans. So let that sink in. First 5 days, Tarrant County, Texas, 2018.
Massive blue wave year.
Right, big blue wave year. I think this is the year Beto is on the ballot here, but it's a primary. It was uncontested. But again, it's your first time to vote. Right.
Yeah.
9,000 Democrats, 14,000 Republicans. Write that down. 9 to 14. I'm just going to fast forward to the first 5 days of early vote in Tarrant County this year in the Texas primary. Republicans, holy shitballs, 36,900 people have voted the same 5 days. It went from 14,000 to 36,000 people voting in the Republican primary so far.
That's a big deal.
Tarrant County.
Yeah.
Democratic number, drum roll, please. 51,000 Democrats in the first 5 days.
That's unbelievable.
It's just crazy.
We've never seen anything like that.
When I say that it's crazy, y'all, me and Mike talk about a lot of things being crazy. Donald Trump wearing a diaper on stage is crazy, but it's not crazy like this.
Yeah.
Like going from 4,000 people, whatever I said it was, 8,000 to 51,000. Something's happening that folks can't get their hands around.
You can't pull that.
Right.
Which is why the polling was wrong in New Jersey and in Virginia and in California there's an intensity and we said it at lunch, there's these new voter groups that are showing up. People are coming to the polls that are not in a likely universe or even a moderately likely universe that are not being questioned. And that's going to be, it could be a big blowout in November, brother. I mean, we're going to see what this is. And those are insane numbers. They are crazy like a leaky Donald Trump diaper at the State of the Union.
Now you're getting crazy. So look, there's another comparison from 4 years ago. Now keep in mind, y'all at home, 4 years ago, there was a governor's race and there was an attorney general's race and a land commissioner race, just like there is now in Texas. But there weren't Talarico's running. There wasn't Jasmine Crockett's running. And I would say that the energy was low. They had Joe Biden low energy in our primaries 4 years ago in 2022.
Chuck said that.
Joe Biden was even the president then, I think, in 2022. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was. So here's where these counties and these cities After 1 week of early voting, a comparison from 22 to right now in 26, 1 week of voting. In DFW, Dallas-Fort Worth, it was Republican plus 25. They had 25% more early vote than Democrats in Dallas-Fort Worth. That's everything, suburbs, city, but it was plus 25 Republican. And Republicans always, y'all, this is why I wasn't being too crazy about these Republicans switching over. That was the only game in town, really. There's lots of contested Republican
side.
25. Now it's D plus 14.
Whew.
D plus 14. It went from R plus 25
to 39-point
to
swing.
D plus 14. I'm not doing that kind of math. It's crazy.
Yeah.
In Houston, all of Houston and Harris County, it was R plus 25. Now it's D plus 5.8.
That's a 34-point swing. We're talking about 30-point swings. That's not, I don't know how to explain this to people that aren't in the business, how significant that is. I don't think we saw that in 1994 when Republicans
71 seats.
71 seats. And how funny you remember that. It's like nightmares. You still have them.
Right. Because first time I got pulled out of the plant was to fix some of the seats in 96. Was the first election I got
What do you mean by fix?
What do you mean?
Was that fixing?
You got to make sure that
fix some of those seats. When you say union democratic politics, you say got to fix some of those seats. I don't know what that means.
Fixing means that sometimes folks need help voting, and you go help them, and you go get their things.
And that's when you become an election judge in Texas.
Austin, bluer than blue, 4 years ago was plus 6 Democrat because we are Democrat hippies. Let's keep Austin weird.
Yeah.
This year it's plus 40. Went from plus 6 to plus 40. Again, Mike, 34 points.
34-point swing.
San Antonio, plus 13 Republican to D plus 26.
Yeah.
But here's the one Mike can't wait to hear. The RGV. Yeah. Now, this is what you need to take a little bit of a caveat and sit down and think with your brain, not with your pooter. Think with your brain. And what I mean by that is...
What do you mean by that?
Pooter means your butt.
I know what it means,
okay,
but
so
what do you mean by that?
It means use your brain, because what people are going to say is 4 years ago, it was D plus 54 in the RGV. This was not a Trump. And it's moved to D plus 60. I mean, it's moved some, but there's been a lot of movement in between with the presidential Trumps, because we're losing off year versus off year. Right. And Beto run a lot of these districts when Beto ran for the congressional races right now. Yeah. If things stay anywhere resemblant to what we've seen in turnout right now, this redistricting, we'll pick up a couple seats. Like when they drew Julie Johnson and Colin Allred out of that seat in Eastern Dallas, they just made that a red seat. Me and you talk about them being in the same ones because they consolidated, went from 3 to 2. One of them's just very red out in East Texas. Now it's a new seat. So they get that one. Yeah. Automatic. Yeah. They did that with one other seat in Houston where they eliminated one of the black seats. They put the old man with the cane who shakes it at the inauguration. Green. Yeah. Who's going to have to run against a new guy who just won and got sworn in, Menifee. Democrat. Right.
I saw him in the CNN studio in D.C. when I was out there.
Super young, impressive guy. He's running against him right now. He's winning by 25, by the way, for all of you at home. Right? Yeah. So anyway, those 2 seats are going to be automatic red. Mm-hmm. It's the other 3 that they redrew where they think that they're going to get
Hispanic voters.
Right. Texas votes. 35 in San Antonio.
Dummy mander.
Right. This is where the Mike Madrid comes in. All 5 of them were done. They smartly mandered 2 of them. Yeah. And then shoved all the Democrats in Houston and Dallas into an extra seat. Yeah. So 2 are automatic no matter what they do. But it's the other 3 that they think they will flip. Yeah. Texas 35, which is an open seat where there's Latino Republicans and Latino Democrats running against each other in primaries. Probably both will go to runoffs, Mike. And then there's Henry Cuellar in 28 and Vicente Gonzalez in 34. And sandwiched in between those is your boy crush, Bobby Polito.
My dog, Bobby Polito, shout out. I may fly down this weekend. I will go see Bobby. He's going to win.
I'm a little worried about how enamored you are with this man.
I'm in love with Bobby Polito. I'm in love with his message. I'm in love with his campaign. I think he resets the whole narrative of where Democrats go with Latino voters. And he's fearless.
You think he has a lot of upside?
He's got a high ceiling, as we say in the business. He's got a high ceiling.
You'll be proud to know, as a Republican, is that there is a liberal Democrat running against him, telling everybody in South Texas that Bobby Polito is a Republican. And Bobby Polito lives in Mexico. They are desperate to beat Bobby Polito, and he just keeps saying, I'm going to stay positive.
Yeah.
I'm going to say my message.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to South Texas voters the way that they should be talked to. And he's whooping her ass.
Yeah, and I was DMing him a little bit, as I sometimes do with my favorite candidates.
Oh, my God.
And I'm like, Bobby, how's it feeling, man? I feel on the ground. And
Mike Madrid slides into your DMs.
I
just
will
look
slide
away.
into my favorite candidate's DMs. And I said, Bobby, how's it looking? He said, just the most upbeat, optimistic guy, but not saying like where the race is at. He's like, I'm just working hard. I'm just going to go, meet people and keep on straight on my message. And I'm like, spill some data, man. Give me the stuff. Give me the tea. Like, what are the numbers? And he's just like, I'm just working hard. I'm just going to go meet my people. And I'm like, going to make me wait till election day to see what those results look like. But I'm hopeful. I love that candidacy. I love that campaign. I love his message. I love what he's got. I think I'm very, very excited about it. Bobby, if you're listening, if I can get down there and see you before election day, I'm going to get down there.
Bobby is a big listener of the show. When I first met Bobby Polito, he was like, you should just know, Chuck Roach, I know you and feel like I know you and Mike Madrid because I listen to the show all the time, even before I ever decided I was going to run for office. Yeah. I've enjoyed the show. So I kind of got
a lot of that
Bobby
this morning
crush.
here in California with the Senate Democrats. A lot of Latino
we take
listeners.
that for granted. Like we have no idea. And I sat here and just bullshit with Mike, not realizing that there's so many people. My wife will tell me all the time, quit telling our business to everybody in America on the podcast when I talk about how we go to Catholic church now. I don't, but she goes and prays for me.
I do.
So listen, both of y'all need to pray for me. We need to talk about what to watch because people are listening to this the day before the Texas primary. And I'm going to give you some races to watch and give you some reasons why you should be watching for them. The first is this race with Julie Johnson and Colin Allred on election night in Texas in a congressional race. Now, there is a third-party candidate who is a very left-winger, even left of Bernie, all the AIPAC drama, everything you need to think about a left-winger. He is one of them. So it's a three-person race. Somebody's got to get 50%. If he was to draw 4 or 5%, can you imagine? It could go to a runoff.
Yeah.
But watch that. If Colin Allred wins easily, that means that black turnout, because it's Dallas, it's Jasmine Crockett's backyard. It literally is part of her old congressional race. The black candidate should do really, really well there.
Yeah.
But scratch. The incumbent is also Julie Johnson, a gay white woman who was a trial attorney in Texas, who's represented about 40% of this district, who has the backing of Akeem Jeffries, the Congressional Hispanic Caucus PAC, and every elected Latino in Dallas. Is that enough? Tune in, boys and girls. We're going to know tomorrow on election day. That's what I'm telling you, what to watch. I don't have the answers. I love Julie. I think Julie should win. I hope that she does win. And if she don't win, I'm going to throw a big fit on this podcast live in person because I hope she wins. She's just salt of the earth. I love her. I love her wife. I love her campaign. I love Sarah, her manager. I just think that they're good people. How you do that? Disclaimer, we do a little work for her. We do a lot of work for her. But I like her. I'd do it for free. Now, I'm not going to do it for free, but I would do it for free if I had to. Just know I like the Julie Johnson. So watch Texas 33. A couple more, then I'm going to get your reaction. I wrote Bobby Polito because I know you needed to watch. How much does Bobby win by? That's what to watch. Watch, is there runoffs around Bobby?
Yeah.
Bobby Polito, I like that. Bobby Polito endorsed Talarico.
Yes.
How do they do in the Valley?
That matters.
Right.
That matters. And Crockett endorsed his opponent.
And the Crockett's been down there campaigning with his opponent.
Yeah.
Because she's like Donald Trump. She gets her nose twisted and wants some revenge as well.
We're going to see how this turns out. It's going to be an interesting night.
It's what to watch.
Yeah.
Watch Texas 15. The next one, and Mike alluded to it last week, Tony Gonzalez seems to be in a little bit of trouble. A lot of trouble.
I didn't say anything about Tony Gonzalez.
I know. I'm just saying
I
you
didn't
brought
even
it
allude
up.
to it.
I'm just saying you
Staying
brought it
out
up.
of that mess.
I'm just saying, you want to know what to watch for?
Damn.
Does Tony Gonzalez have to get into a runoff with the guy who's called the gun candidate? There's like 4 other primary people running against Gonzalez. It's just something to watch. Does he win outright? Like there's people in Congress calling for him because of a scandal. So we'll just see what happens with that thing. Like it's just something you should keep your eye on. I feel bad for everybody involved.
That's the ugliest race I've seen in a long time. It's just a bad situation.
Republican violence. I just hate it so much. Anyway, Texas 35.
Who's this?
This is the new seat, the one I just talked about, that used to be Greg Casar, but now is a new seat that they created, Mike. Dummy Mander.
Yeah.
Watch this race on election night. I almost can promise you there'll be a runoff on both sides.
Okay.
But an interesting dynamic in this race is, do you know the woman named Monica De La Cruz.
Yeah.
She's the congresswoman that Bobby's taking on.
Yeah.
Here's what you don't know.
Here's what I don't know.
Her brother's running for Congress in this seat.
What's his last name?
I think it's De La Cruz.
The De La Cruzers.
Right.
Yeah, the De La Cruz Caucus.
And Donald Trump, I think, endorsed in that race.
I'm sure.
And I think it was him.
Okay. Makes sense. That adds up.
That tracks, as the kids say.
That tracks.
But let's watch, because I think this is one where it's going to be one of the most fascinating races. Now, look, it's a Republican plus 13 seat.
That's in play.
But it is, as we said last week, almost 40%, 39% Latino voting age.
Yeah.
So 30% probably easily VPAP, voter age, propensity to vote, all those things. So when Mike explained to you about how these California races used to go back, 30% was the mark, is what the point you were making last week about it. If they had 30%, we could swing it.
Exactly.
These Republicans think all these Democrats are going to vote for Donald Trump. I mean, these Latinos.
Yeah, brother, we're seeing 22% approvals, 26% approvals amongst Latinos. This is down like Bob Dole numbers I tweeted out the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
I haven't seen these numbers since the early mid-90s. Like, these are bad numbers. We're not just at the point where Donald Trump has lost all of his gains. Don't be doing that to Bob Dole.
So my bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, forget you're Republican.
Yeah, that hurt my Republican. That cut so deep hurt my Republican. Don't watch that on YouTube. If you're seeing it, I'm not even going to reference what he just did.
Thank you.
But what I will say is that those numbers are the bottom baseline. In 1996, Bill Clinton, Bob Dole, Latino numbers had never been lower. We're at those numbers now with Donald Trump. So you can't look at, and by the way, that's assuming that the polling is taking into account all of the dynamics that we just argued, I think very eloquently and accurately, aren't being taken into account for. I think the numbers on the ground are far worse than the polling is saying, and the polling is really bad for Republicans. Wouldn't it be ironic if Monica De La Cruz loses and her brother wins, by the way? That's hilarious.
That could very easily happen.
It's a very likely possibility, but there's also a very good possibility that they both lose, incidentally. And I'm gonna draw this out even a little bit more.
Here we go.
Go Mike Madrid here. They had to shave off other Republican seats and make them less Republican in order to create those seats. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if one or two of those wake up on Election Day in November and some Republican who didn't even know they had a race ends up losing.
That's a guy that had an R plus 25 district that they're like, hey, man, we're just going to take 10, 12%. You're still fine. You're in double digits.
Tom Foley. Remember Tom Foley lost in 94?
Mm-hmm. Right. Remember that woman who the Democrat won in Washington State who nobody spent a dime on that year?
Yeah. This is going to be one of those years when some big surprises happen where people are in contested races and they don't even know that it's coming.
I'm going to tell you a funny thing is that, I've been getting into these biographical series and watching to learn about my history. I'm not going to talk about the American Revolution, which I'm currently watching until I finish because I think we're going to win. But
I got to tell a story real quick. We're walking to lunch and Chuck is like, man, I'm watching this story about the American Revolution. This is amazing. You're never going to believe what I'm like, brother, that's the history of this country. It's like he's just finding it out for the first time. It's like, Mike, you're not going to believe Benedict Arnold.
He went to Canada.
He was going to,
and they shot him and they took a bunch of his folks. And then there's a bunch of cannons that they had to move. I'm learning a lot about this country. I'm hoping for America to win. I think we're going to win this revolution. But I digress and tell you, I was watching another thing on the Netflix like 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And it was the LBJ movie with Woody Harrelson.
Is that good?
Oh my God. It's really good. It made me think about, who he turned to a guy when after Kennedy got shot and he said, Congressman, I want you on the plane with me because they was whisking him away and he grabbed this Texas congressman. And I started researching who was the congressman that LBJ, it was Jack Brooks. Jack Brooks from Beaumont, Texas, 1994, gets beat by Republicans in the 71-seat shellacking that was in the first off year of Bill Clinton. To your point, Mike Madrid, is there's races that folks won't be on their radar. Jack Brooks, who was an icon, who was the head of appropriations, who doled out money for everybody, lost a seat he had been in for 41 years. These are the crazy things that could happen. And I learned it watching the LBJ movie.
I just love how excited Chuck is about history. Shout out to Ebony, because I know he's not doing this on his own. She's sitting him on the couch and saying, we're going to watch something informative, intelligent, and exciting.
The history is me, but she has been reading the Bible and telling me a lot about the Bible. So we've been doing.
There's some history in the Bible too, by the way.
Here's the last point I want to make. I know we've been going along on this podcast, but we're together and we're in Sacramento and it smells really good in this office. And if you go outside, it smells like horse shit, but I digress. It's still Sacramento.
That's rude.
Look, here's the biggest difference. in this election. I'm looking at the camera for those of you on YouTube, and I'm making eye contact so you understand. For all of you Democrats who are baking each other cakes or marijuana brownies or whatever you Democrats bake for each other to celebrate the victory that you think you're automatically going to have in November, let me take a little cold water and sprinkle it on you. Sometimes like the priest does at the Catholic Church when he just throws it in your face a little bit. Listen to me. I got something for you to be worried about. And it's not Democratic messaging around working class values like Michael over here says, Madrid. Here's the point I want to make. The point I want to make is this, is that Donald Trump has $300 million in a super PAC. The crypto super PAC has $150 million, and Meta this week announced $65 million super PAC. That's more money, almost by 10 times what each Democratic Party committee and super PAC has. That means as of today, they could outspend us $20 to every one that we spend. It's got to make some difference, right, Mike? Doesn't have to make some. I'll be spent 20 to 1. Now, I understand there's only so many TV commercials you can buy in the Central Valley of California.
That makes me wish I was still doing Republican campaigns. I'll tell you that. I could retire a wealthy man after a cycle like this. Yes, it's going to make an impact. And yes, you need to be mindful of it. When I'm looking at the data, I don't care how much money you have. The headwinds are too significant. They're too strong to when we're talking about 30-point swings and Democrat plus 13 and 14 seats, a Republican plus 13, 14 seats going over to the Democrats. I don't know, man. They're gonna need every last dime of that $450 million you outlined. That is a god-smacking amount of money. That is a huge amount of money, but they're gonna need every cent of it.
In 2018, when we did really, really well, and we referred back to that of like this high watermark that Mike Madrid talks about with Latino midterm voting, and he's right. We dramatically, and again, I can't be more enthusiastic or try to put emphasis on this, but we as Democrats dramatically outspent Republicans to win all of those seats. We had the ones with the most money. Our super PACs had more money. Our candidates had way more money, and could buy that candidate. When you buy a TV commercial from a candidate, you get a better rate. And our candidates all had more money. And our party committees had twice as much money.
Mm-hmm.
That is not the case. This is the biggest thing that nobody's talking about, Mike. And the biggest difference between 2018 and what we have today is Donald Trump and these crypto PACs and these meta PACs just have now, can they waste it? Will it be done smartly? All that, I don't know none of that yet. But if I had that much money, I would already be running ads to just soften the playing field, to lay down some cover fire or whatever.
Condition the environment.
That's what you call it?
Conditioning the environment.
Oh, conditioning the environment. Oh, I think that sounds like
write that down.
Hyperbole.
Yeah, you can use that again. But let me counterpoint just a little bit here.
Okay,
because it does matter. It is important. Don't get me wrong. That's a huge amount of money. But here's what the Republicans have to do to get back into just a competitive position. They have to get very high Latino turnout, which is going to happen. But they have to get very high Latino turnout with a very specific demographic. Young Latino men under 30. And they not only have to get them to the polls, they have to break 60, 75% towards the Republican Party just to get back to competitiveness. And when I'm saying competitiveness, I don't mean like 50-50. I mean, they're going to have to get back. That puts like a Republican plus 7 or 8 back into their column. They've got some really big structural challenges. Remember, Democrats are now the beneficiaries of low turnout elections. This high turnout that you're talking about, that's not like new Republican voters coming to the polls. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are. But like you're seeing voters that have never voted before showing up in all of these Texas voting models. I don't think they're voting for Donald Trump. I mean, what do you think?
I think it's different in a primary. I think that folks who are showing up who normally vote, the bar is so low. I get excited about regular voters in a general who don't normally vote in a primary showing up, which is like 28% or something like that. But new voters showing up to vote in a primary is like a double whammy. It's hard to emphasize what I'm trying to say here, but it's like that and more. Like nobody shows up new in a primary.
Completely unaccounted for.
Right, ever. And to your point, in all the polling that I've been seeing, and I can't mention campaigns or where I saw it, but I can just say this and make sure you know it's fact, is in everything that I've been doing, Latinos move back to the left, back to Democrats at some level. If if you break them down by women and men and age and education, and all of them move left, and all of them have been moving left from Miami polling, New Jersey polling, and now in Texas in multiple races that I'm working in that you see that they're moving back left.
Yeah.
But the ones who move the least are these young, non-college educated Latino men.
That's what the Third Way report came out, the centrist Democratic think tank, showing only a 4-point move. Right. Only 4% of these Latino young men under 30 move from Republican to Democrat. Some of these barely budging back.
Some of these men move 20 points back to Democrats, but not these non-college educated, working class men.
Exactly.
They move. They're mad.
Yeah.
But they're not as mad or understand everything. I shouldn't say they don't understand, but whatever. They're moving. It's just not as much so far with what I've seen.
Yeah.
There's a lot more polling coming out.
That's right. Now, why do you think that these big money PACs on the Republican side aren't spending now? If they've got that much money, don't you try to message into a Texas Senate race because the downside is so bad?
I think they want particular things. And this week, in case any of you missed it, the big crypto PAC is going into Texas into 4 primaries, mainly Republican primaries. We have a pro-crypto Republican running against an anti-crypto. So they're singling out individuals.
Okay.
It's much like how AIPAC stepped on their own foot in that New Jersey special, ran ads against Malinowski and got him out and made him only get second. But the 2 candidates that they hoped would win got 3rd and 4th. And the real anti-AIPAC person actually won. That's where you got to be smart, strategic about this spin. And they had spent $2.5 million on New York City TV over 3 weeks. Like, it's Mike shaking his head because we have seen that 100 times. Look, everybody, it's been really great to be here in Sacramento. And I want to thank Mike, and I pick way too much. And in my family, y'all should all know, and my wife will tell you this, that's how Chuck Rocha shows love. If I'm fucking with you, that means I love you. And if I fuck with you a lot, like this guy, that means I love him a lot because I like to fuck with Mike Madrid because I like Mike Madrid. We got to fuck around with Tony Cardenas today in a good way. Tony was in town. He came and had lunch with us. Shout out to Tony Cardenas. Thank you, former congressman here in Sacramento doing some work. And I was like, come, have lunch with us. Me and Mike love seeing Tony Cardenas, and we're going to have him on the show to talk about things he's working on. And we were running the ideas by him on what me and Mike have planned, again, for this summer, in June or July, for the first annual, to make it mini, first annual Latino Vote Summit in Washington, D.C. Remind everybody what we're trying to accomplish, Mike.
Guys, this is going to be exciting. And if you're interested, both comment for us, but also email us and let us know that you're interested.
And who you would like to see.
And who you'd like to see, because we are going to have a day-long event. We won't announce the venue yet because we're still deciding on what is most appropriate for it. But we're going to go into Washington, D.C., and the goal is to get people, leaders, activists, elected officials from both sides of the aisle here. This is going to be unique. This is not going to be a cattle call, incidentally. This is going to be people that we bring in who want to have a constructive conversation about the state of the Latino community, what the Latino agenda is, and what both their parties are both doing right and wrong. So we're not looking for hardcore believers that are just, hating on the other side. It's got to be like Chuck and I think have set a good example for us. We disagree on a lot, but we agree on a lot, and we try to focus on those agreements. We think the time is now in this hyper-partisan, hyper-racialized era to have Latinos coming together across the aisle to start redefining what our politics look like. We're not talking about a third party, but we are talking about a workable faction that's willing to advocate and fight for our community, whether you're on the Republican side or the Democratic side or no side at all. If you're interested, probably a late June, early July timeframe.
That's what we're looking at.
That's what we're looking at. I couldn't be more excited about it. I think it's going to be off the charts successful. We have some great names that you've all known coming to speak. We'll have some panels, some breakouts, and I think a lot of working men and women from unions. We'll have a lot of people from Latino Hispanic Chambers of Commerce. We're going to have business community advocates. We'll have people from the environmental constituencies, you name it. We're going to be very selective, very methodical for this first time. See if this works. And if it does, I think we're going to start cooking with gas every year going forward, maybe do some stuff regionally around the country.
I think what we should do is have what we used to do in wrestling is have a battle royale, and we all get in a ring, and the last one over the top rope wins, and they get to set the agenda.
Nacho
Libre! Look, for all of you at home, thanks again for listening, and thanks again. Look at this studio and all the nice things. Don't forget to call your mom if you're lucky enough to have her. Andreas, this is where you use that Tupac California song to take us out. Till next week, y'all be good.